It's my second morning hunting Gredos Ibex in Spain, and as we drive close to the area we'll be hunting, my guide Antonio stops alongside the road to show me a piece of history that I will never forget.
This is incredible. This is literally an old Roman road?
Yes, it's thousands of years old.
Thousands of years.
Everyone knows that the Romans built one of the largest and most important civilizations in human history. You can't talk about the history of the world without talking about the conquests and the technological advancements of the Roman Empire. And the scope and size of that empire, to say the least, is impressive. It included nearly everything around the Mediterranean Sea and stretched from parts of Asia all the way to Britain. And to maintain a territory like that, you needed to be able to safely move things like food, civilians, military, and communications. And to do that, the Romans built an extensive permanent network of roads. The Romans invaded what is today called Spain around 218 BC. But the native people of the Iberian Peninsula didn't go quietly, and it took the Romans nearly 200 years to complete that conquest. As the Roman Empire expanded, so did its network of roads, and by the late ages of the empire, 113 provinces were interconnected by 372 roads totaling over 250,000 miles. 50,000 of those miles were paved just like the road that I'm standing on today. And they did that often with slave labor from prisoners of war, one stone at a time. And I'd say they did a damn good job, because many of those roads are still here today.
Well, judging by the construction in Nashville, this is proof positive that they don't make them like they used to.
Well, after learning all about the Roman roads, we get back on the good old blacktop. We drive for a few minutes, park the truck, and start hiking. And just an hour into our hike, things start to get interesting.
Spotted our first contender. At least he did. And I don't know how the heck he found it. I could barely find those in the binos, 600 yards away. A solo big male sitting there. So now they're having some intelligible discussion about whether or not it's a shooter.
The Sierra de Gredos is one of the most extensive mountain ranges of the central system of Spain. The central system is a mountain range that lies in the center of the Iberian Peninsula, and it has a length of over 370 miles. The Sierra de Gredos is the highest and most rugged part of the central system. It has 5 river valleys, and to cross these river valleys is often very dangerous. After Antonio barely made this jump, I decided to throw my gun and my pack ahead of me. Surely after that, I'd have no problem. I was wrong.
Slippery right there.
All I have to say for that is thank God for my new buddy Javier. As we climbed higher and higher, the fog began to roll in, and it made stalking conditions often impossible. We continually had to stop and wait, sometimes for hours. And as time wasted away, we began to worry that we were going to run out of enough daylight to get close enough to the big ibex that we'd spotted.
I mean, right now with 520. Yeah. So I mean, it's very possible we'll get that.
Yeah.
But we weren't giving up yet.
The ibex, it's behind these rocks. We have to stalk very quietly and hidden. And maybe we come out in a short distance.
Yeah.
The Gredos Ibex is the largest of the Spanish ibex species, and it carries the largest horns, which have a unique curve and a spiral turn of more than 180 degrees while turning backward. Their horns progressively decrease in thickness from the base to their extremely thin tips. I've already seen several impressive ibex on this trip, but I gotta tell you, as we crawled into position and I got my first good look at this lone monarch, I was blown away, and I was ready for my shot. Mother Nature, on the other hand, she had other plans.
We made it within 100 yards of this shooter. And now we're stuck because of the fog. We can't do anything, or at least see him. He's right there.
We have no choice but to wait out the fog and hope that this giant doesn't move. And after an hour of waiting, we finally got the break we were looking for.
There's nothing like the feeling of flying all the way over the ocean, hiking up a mountain with good people, and then doing what you came to do.
Congratulations. Good shot, man.
Oh, Nick. Bueno, gracias. Gracias.
Great diving.
Holy moly. There's nothing worse than being put on ice for a long period of time. In this case, the fog. And I'm so glad he's laying right there, because if he had toppled, it would have been a tough dragon job.
The Spanish celebrate everything with food. So after a quick snack and a moment to appreciate a great day in the Gredos Mountains, we begin the long hike down. As excited as I am to have number 3 of the 4 Spanish Ibex on my back, my favorite memory of this trip are the new friends I've made. Separated slightly by language, but brought together by the timeless bonds of food, drink, and the thrill of the hunt.
What do you do when you get done hunting on the mountain? You go underneath the mountain.
On New Year's Eve of 1963, 5 kids were wandering the woods on a hill known as Cerro del Águila. They saw steam coming out of a hole, and after they grabbed some ropes and lanterns, they lowered themselves down almost 200 feet. When they found the bottom, they couldn't believe their own eyes. They had stumbled upon one of the greatest Spanish geological discoveries of the century, and after 6 months of construction to make an entrance, the cave was opened to the public July 18th, 1964. Today, I'm headed down to check it out for myself with the help of this guy, Mario, the Spanish cave guide. We begin our journey underground step by step to a depth of 164 feet. The temperature gets cooler until it settles at a steady 62 degrees, which it stays at all year long. You have to watch your head because the passages are small until you get to the bottom.
Wow.
And then things open up into one of the most breathtaking things I've ever seen.
Wow.
This is incredible.
Whoa. That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's pristine. The first thing that strikes me when I see this is that the caves I've seen in the United States aren't this perfect. I mean, they've been open to people, some of them for over 100 years, and people touch them and they break stuff off. But this is perfectly white and perfectly preserved because they discovered it in the 60s, right?
Yeah,
so,
60s, yeah.
So they knew enough to protect it.
This cave, it's very strange that it's in a special point because all the mountains around from Gredos and all these other areas are granite areas. Granite,
yeah.
So then this is very strange that they have this
Because
kind of...
it's one spot that just isn't granite.
It's just here one point of all the mountains all around.
Wow.
This cave is absolutely incredible, but it's even more incredible when you consider how these formations came to be. The space of this cave is essentially formed by the flow of rainwater eroding away the limestone over tens of thousands of years. The beautiful formations hanging from the top of the cave are called stalactites. They're formed when water containing calcium from the limestone rock drips from the ceiling of a cave. As the water comes into contact with air, some of that calcium hardens, and over thousands of years, an elongated formation begins to take shape. The formations that grow up from the bottom are called stalagmites, and they're formed essentially with the same principle, only in reverse. Now here's where it gets crazy. Some of these formations are over 20 to 30 feet long or more. And now imagine that to create just 10 centimeters of that can take over 1,000 years. When you start doing that math, it takes this place from incredible to mind-blowing.
I think honestly, this is one of the coolest things I've done on a hunting trip, and this is why I love this sport so much, because it's not just about going out and killing something. For me, a hunting trip is about stuff like this, because right above here is where we're hunting. But right here, all we had to do is scratch the surface a little bit, and we found something completely cool and unique to this area. And that is what hunting's all about. I swear, for me, that's what it is.
Next week, my adventure with Antonio in Spain continues. I learn how to make olive oil,
That's really good.
I hunt for truffles. Yes, I said truffles. And no, I'm not talking about the chocolate.
Pretty cool.
And of course, I hunt for the Gredos Ibex in hopes of finishing my Spanish Ibex Grand Slam. Until then, hasta la vista.